Imagine a world with no cities, no kings sitting in palaces, no armies marching in formation, no written laws, no courts, no justice, just wind, grass, and the sound of horses. This is Central Asia. The year is approximately 1162 AD, and in this vast, violent, frozen world, a child is about to be born who will change the course of human history more than almost any person who has ever lived. His mother is a woman who was kidnapped on her wedding day. His father is the leader of a small, struggling tribe that most of their neighbors do not take seriously. They have no gold, no palace, no great army. They have a ger, a round felt tent, standing alone on the steppe. They have horses, a few cattle, and the ability to survive winters that kill weaker men. And they have a baby boy. He is born, according to the legends of his people, clutching a blood clot in his right hand. The shamans say this is a sign of a great warrior, a sign of a conqueror, and the child's name is Temujin. The world will call him Genghis Khan. To understand Genghis Khan, you must first understand the world he was born into, because it was not a world that produced heroes easily. It was a world designed to break people. The Mongolian steppe is one of the largest grassland ecosystems on Earth. It stretches more than 5,000 kilometers from east to west, from the forests of Manchuria all the way to the edges of Eastern Europe. It is beautiful in a harsh way. Endless rolling grass, mountains in the distance, a sky so big it feels like it goes on forever. But it is also brutally unforgiving. Winters on the steppe can drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Zuds, catastrophic winter storms, can kill an entire herd of horses in a single night. And if your horses die on the Mongolian steppe, you die not long after. The people who lived here, the nomadic tribes of Central Asia, had adapted to this world over thousands of years. They moved constantly, following the grass, following the animals. They lived in gers, circular felt tents that could be packed onto a cart and moved in hours. They measured wealth not in gold, but in horses, and they were extraordinary horsemen. Mongol children learned to ride before they could walk properly. By age 5, a Mongol boy could ride at full gallop. Now, in 1162, this steppe was divided among dozens of tribes. The Tatars, powerful, well-connected to the Chinese Jin dynasty to the south. The Merkits, fierce raiders who controlled territory near Lake Baikal. The Karaites, one of the largest and most organized tribes, with connections to Nestorian Christianity. The Naimans, a sophisticated Western tribe with their own scribal culture, and many others. The Mongols, Temujin's people, were just one tribe among many, not the largest, not the most powerful, constantly at war with their neighbors, particularly the Tatars. These tribes did not live in peace with each other. They never had. Raiding was the economy. You raided your neighbors for horses, for cattle, for women. Blood feuds lasted generations. A wrong done to your grandfather was a wrong you were expected to avenge. It was, in other words, a world of constant, low-level violence, where trust was rare, alliances were fragile, and the only thing that mattered was strength. This is the world that made Genghis Khan, and, eventually, the world that Genghis Khan would remake. Temujin's father was a man named Yesugei. Yesugei was the leader, or Bagatur, meaning hero, of a small Mongol clan called the Borjigin. He was not the most powerful man on the steppe, but he was respected. He had fought well. He had raided successfully. He had built a small but loyal following, and he had a history of conflict with the Tatars, a tribe far more powerful than his own. Years before Temujin was born, Yesugei had captured a Tatar chieftain named Temujin Ugei. It was this man's name, the name of a captured enemy, that Yesugei gave to his newborn son. On the steppe, this was a form of honor. The name carried the energy of the defeated. The son would inherit the enemy's power, his strength, his fate, transformed into victory. Temujin's mother was a woman named Hoelun, and Hoelun's story, before she became Temujin's mother, is itself a story of violence and survival. Hoelun had originally been betrothed to a man from the Merkit tribe, a man named Taychigud. They were traveling together, newly married, when Yesugei saw them. Yesugei wanted her. And on the Mongolian steppe, if you were strong enough, you simply took what you wanted. He called his brothers. They chased Chiledu away, and Hoelun was taken, screaming, weeping, clutching her husband's shirt, to become Yesugei's wife. The Merkits would remember this for a very long time. But for now, Hoelun built her life. She had children. She ran the household. And when her first son was born, clutching that dark blood clot, She named him Temujin, and she raised him to survive in a world that wanted to destroy him. Temujin was 9 years old when his father decided it was time. Time to find the boy a wife. This sounds strange to modern ears. A 9-year-old boy, a bride. But on the Mongolian steppe, betrothal happened young, very young. It was not about romance. It was about alliance, about binding families together before children could be stolen or married elsewhere. Yesugei knew exactly where he wanted to look. The Unghirat tribe, to the south, were known for the beauty of their women. Father and son rode together across the steppe, days of riding, nights sleeping under the stars. The secret history of the Mongols tells us that on the way south, Temujin had a dream. He dreamed of a white falcon that carried the sun and the moon in its talons. When he described this dream to his father, Yesugei said, "This is a good sign. This is a very good sign." They arrived at the camp of Day the Wise, the chief of a branch of the Unghirat. Day had a daughter named Borte. The secret history describes Borte as having light in her face and fire in her eyes. Yesugei saw her and immediately made his decision. Day agreed to the match, but there was a condition. Temujin would stay with Day's family for a period. When Temujin was old enough, he could come back and claim her. Yesugei accepted. He said his goodbyes to his son. He turned his horse around and he began the long ride home. He did not make it. Somewhere on the journey back, he came across a group of Tatars holding a celebration, a feast. On the steppe, the laws of hospitality were sacred. You did not turn away a traveler. You fed them. Yesugei stopped. He ate with them. The Tatars recognized him, the man who had raided them for years. They said nothing. They smiled. They poured him more food, more drink, and they poisoned him. Yesugei felt the sickness take hold as he rode north. He sent a messenger ahead to fetch Temujin. He wanted to see his son before he died. By the time Temujin arrived, Yesugei was already gone. Temujin was 9 years old. He was now the son of a dead man. One of the most dangerous things you could be. The clan that had followed Yesugei made their decision quickly. They abandoned his family. This was, by the brutal logic of the steppe, a reasonable decision. Yesugei had led them. Yesugei had been strong. Without him, the clan needed a new leader, a strong adult man who could protect them, raid successfully, negotiate alliances. Not a 9-year-old boy and a kidnapped woman. They packed their jurs, took their horses and cattle, and left. Holun tried to stop them. The secret history says she rode after them, holding the clan banner, shouting. Some turned back. Most did not. What Holun was left with, herself. Several young children, Temujin, his brothers Kasar, Kachyun and Temugei, his sister Temulin, and 2 stepchildren from Yesugei's other wives. No cattle, almost no horses, no adult men, no allies. What happened next is one of the most remarkable survival stories in history. Holun fed her children by digging wild onions and garlic bulbs from the frozen earth, by gathering pine nuts, birds' cherries, wild pears, anything that grew, by fishing, by snaring small animals, by doing things that, on the steppe, were considered beneath the dignity of even the poorest family. She did not care about dignity. She cared about her children surviving. Temujin learned to fish. He learned to hunt with his brothers. Small game at first, then larger. He learned to make do with nothing, but he also learned something else. He learned what betrayal felt like. Every day on that empty steppe, with the wind cutting through their thin tent walls, was a reminder. The people who should have protected them had walked away. Not strangers. Their own clan. Temujin never forgot this. He would spend the rest of his life building a system of loyalty so absolute that no one could ever walk away from him again. There is a story from these years that tells you everything about the kind of boy Temujin was becoming. He and his brother Kasar caught a fish in the river. Their stepbrothers, Begter and Belgute, took it from them. Then they took some birds that Temujin had caught. Temujin and Kasar complained to their mother. Holun told them to be patient, to endure, to remember that family was all they had. Temujin did not agree. He and Kasar waited until Begter was sitting alone on a hill, watching the horses. They came at him from 2 sides, with arrows. Begter reportedly did not run. He sat. He looked at them. and he asked only that they spare his full brother Belgute. Then he accepted his fate. Temujin was perhaps 12 or 13 years old. He had just killed his own stepbrother for stealing his fish. Holun was furious, horrified. She compared him to the wild animals of the steppe. She raged at what he had done. But the act revealed something essential about Temujin. He would not accept being diminished. He would not accept theft. He would not accept weakness, not in himself, not from those around him. And he was willing to do what had to be done, even when it was terrible. As Temujin grew older, his name began to travel. He was Yesugei's son. People remembered Yesugei. And a chief's son, grown up, could become a rallying point, could attract warriors, could challenge for leadership. The Taychigud, a powerful clan that had been part of Yesugei's broader confederation, decided to deal with this problem early. They came to Temujin's camp with warriors. They were not there to negotiate. Temujin ran. He fled into the forest on the slopes of Burkhan Khaldun, the sacred mountain of the Mongols. For days he hid. The Taychigud searched. He stayed hidden. For 9 days, Temujin survived in the forest, hiding, moving at night, drinking only water. But eventually, starving, he had to move. And as he emerged from the trees, the Taychigud were waiting. They put him in a kange. A kange was a heavy wooden frame, like a portable stockade, locked around the neck and wrists. It prevented the wearer from feeding themselves, from sleeping comfortably, from running. It was a deliberate humiliation, designed to break a person's spirit. Temujin was paraded through the camps of the Taychigud, a trophy, a defeated enemy chief's son. He was held captive, passed from family to guard, until one night at a great feast. And when the men were drinking and distracted, Temujin acted. The details in the secret history are dramatic, perhaps embellished by later telling. What we know, he escaped. He used the wooden kange itself as a weapon, swinging it at a guard who tried to stop him. He ran to a river and hid in the water, only his face above the surface, breathing quietly as searchers moved past. A man named Sorkin Shira, who had been assigned to guard him and had shown him small kindnesses, found him in the river. He could have raised the alarm. He did not. He told Temujin to hide. And later his sons helped Temujin escape completely, burning the kangwe, giving him a horse, sending him home. Temujin remembered every person who helped him, always. When he had power, he rewarded Sorkin Shira and his sons beyond anything they could have imagined. But that day, returning to his family, free, he was still nobody. Still a boy with nothing but his life and his fury, and a memory like iron. When Temujin was old enough, perhaps 16 or 17 years old, he went to claim his bride. Day the Wise had kept his word. Borda was there, waiting, and the marriage was made. Borda came with a gift, a magnificent coat of black sable furs. On the steppe, this was extraordinary wealth. Sable pelts were among the most valuable things that existed. Temujin understood immediately what this gift was and what it could do. For a brief time, there was something almost resembling peace. Temujin and Borte were together. They had a small home, a small following, allies beginning to gather around him. He was making himself known. Carefully, slowly, building. Then the night raid came. The Merkits had not forgotten. Years ago, a generation ago, Yesugei had stolen Holun from a Merkit man named Chilidu. On the steppe, this was a debt, a blood debt, and blood debts did not expire. 300 Merkit riders came in the night. Temujin's camp had a little warning, barely enough. He fled on horseback into the darkness toward the sacred mountain Burkhan Khaldun. His mother fled, his brothers fled. But Borte, in the chaos in the dark, was left behind. The Merkits took her. She was given as a wife to Chilidu's brother, a deliberate, calculated insult. You took our woman, we take yours. Temujin, hiding in the mountain forests, was safe, but Borda was gone. Most men on the steppe in this situation would have accepted their loss. A stolen wife was a tragedy, yes, but what could one man with no army do against 300 Merkit warriors? Temujin was not most men. He would get her back, whatever it cost. Whatever alliances he had to build, whatever wars he had to fight, he would get her back. Temujin had two assets. The first was Bort's wedding gift, the black sable coat. Temujin rode to Togrul, the Khan of the Karets, one of the most powerful rulers on the steppe. Togrul had been an Anda, a blood brother of Temujin's father, Yesugei. He owed a form of loyalty, or at least a debt of honor. Temujin presented the coat. He reminded Togrul of the old bond between their fathers. He asked for help, not as a beggar, but as a man calling in a debt. Togrul agreed. He would provide 20,000 warriors. The second asset was Jamuka. Jamuka was Temujin's Anda, his sworn blood brother. They had made the bond as children, exchanging gifts, swearing oaths. On the steppe, an Anda bond was considered stronger than a family bond, more sacred, more absolute. Jamuka was brilliant, charismatic, already powerful in his own right, and he responded to Temujin's call. He came with his own force. Temujin now had an army. They rode. The attack was overwhelming. The Merkits had not expected anything like this. 3 separate forces, coordinated, hitting from multiple directions. The camp scattered, warriors fled. The Merkit chief ran for his life, and in the chaos of the fleeing camp, Temujin rode through, calling her name. Borte, she heard him, she ran to him, and Temujin lifted her onto his horse. This was Temujin's first real military campaign, his first coordinated war, and it taught him 3 lessons that he would use for the rest of his life. Speed was power. Strike before the enemy expects it. Alliance was power. Loyalty was power. Give people reasons to fight for you, and they will move mountains. After the rescue of Borte, Temujin and Jamuka rode together. They camped together for a year and a half. Some sources say longer, fighting together, winning together, building. They were the 2 rising powers on the steppe. Between them, they were almost unstoppable. But they were fundamentally different men, and those differences would eventually destroy everything between them. Jamuka believed in the old order. He believed that birth mattered, that blood mattered, that a man who came from a great lineage was naturally superior to a man who came from a lesser one. He led in the traditional way, the aristocratic clans at the top, commoners at the bottom. Temujin believed in something entirely different. He believed that loyalty mattered, ability mattered. He promoted men based on their skill and their faithfulness to him, regardless of which clan they came from. A man who was born a slave but proved himself loyal and brilliant could rise to be a general under Temujin. A man born into the highest family who showed disloyalty could expect to die. This was genuinely revolutionary on the steppe, and it worked. Warriors who had served under other leaders, men who were talented but held back by their birth, heard about Temujin. They began to come to him, one by one, then in groups, then by the dozens. One night, the moment of separation came. The sources disagree on exactly what triggered it, an argument over camp placement, an insult real or imagined. What is clear is that Temujin and Jamuka went their separate ways. And as they separated, most of the warriors who had ridden with them chose Temujin. Jamuka watched this, and something changed in him. The 2 Anda, the blood brothers, became rivals, then enemies. They would spend the next 2 decades trying to destroy each other, and in the end, only one of them would be left standing. What followed were years of brutal, grinding warfare. Temujin fought the Jurchen clan, Mongols who had insulted him and failed to show up when he needed them. He defeated them, executed their leaders, and absorbed their warriors. He fought the Tatars, the people who had poisoned his father. He defeated them so completely that he ordered every Tatar male taller than the wheel of a cart to be killed. The rest were absorbed into his growing confederation. He defeated his Anda Jamuka again and again in a long, complicated rivalry that saw each man defeat the other at different points. He fought the Karets, his old allies, when their relationship soured. He fought the Naimans, sophisticated, powerful, with their own scribal culture. He fought the Merkits, again. Every victory, Temujin did something unusual. He did not simply raid and move on. To achieve this, he reorganized. He restructured his army into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, completely breaking up old clan units. Warriors from a dozen different tribes were mixed together in the same unit, serving the same commander, loyal not to their clan, but to Temujin personally. This was a stroke of genius. On the steppe, clan loyalty had always been the foundation of everything. Your clan was your identity. Temujin broke that identity, deliberately, and replaced it with something new,
loyalty to him and to each other as warriors. He also created something unprecedented, a guard unit called the Taychigud. 10,000 of his finest warriors personally loyal to him, trained to the highest standard. The most elite military force the steppe had ever seen. And crucially, he rewarded people who served him well. Nourishment, horses, status, captive women and cattle from raids. If you were loyal to Temujin, you prospered. If you betrayed him, you died. The steppe had seen great warriors before. It had never seen a leader quite like this.
By 1206, it was over. Every major tribe on the Mongolian steppe had been defeated, absorbed, or submitted willingly. The Tatars, gone. The Merkits, broken. The Naimans, defeated. The Karaites, absorbed. And Jamuka, his old blood brother, his great rival, had been captured. The end of Jamuka is one of the most remarkable moments in the secret history. Temujin offered him his life. He asked Jamuka to ride with him again, as they had in the old days. But Jamuka refused. He would not ride with his rival again. He said, and the secret history preserves his words, that the sky had only room for one sun. The earth had only room for one ruler. He asked only for a noble death, to be killed without spilling blood. And so Temujin granted his request. The great Khan honored his brother's final wish. Jamuka was executed, his back broken, his blood kept inside his body, as was the custom for men of rank. And then, with no more enemies to fight, no more rivals to face, a great Kurultai was called. Every leader, every warrior, every clan that had survived the wars, all gathered in one place. For the first time in history, all of them, together. The shamans performed their rituals. The banners were raised. 9 white banners, representing the 9 tails, the symbol of the Mongol nation. And the assembly proclaimed its leader, Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, the universal ruler, the ocean lord, Khan of all those who live in felt tents, the boy who had been abandoned on the steppe, who had buried his father at 9 years old, who had been enslaved, humiliated, and left for nothing, who had fought for 30 years with almost nothing, no gold, no palace, no inherited army. That boy was now the ruler of the largest unified land empire the steppe had ever seen. But Genghis Khan was not finished. He had united the Mongolian tribes. This was extraordinary. No one had done it before. But for Genghis Khan, it was only the beginning, because beyond the steppe were empires. The Jin dynasty of northern China, 100 million people, the largest and most sophisticated state in the world. The Khwarezmian Empire, stretching from Persia to Central Asia, wealthy beyond imagination. The Islamic Caliphate in Baghdad and the cultural and intellectual center of the entire known world. And far to the west, kingdoms and empires that had never even heard the word Mongol. Genghis Khan looked at all of it, and he rode.